The scene starts with me back. I drop the towel. My amazing ass is featured, and then I turn around and I sit down. They didn't carve out butt in my nudity writer, so they weren't allowed to use it. So the audience was robbed. But
so somewhere there's the lost Joel Kim Booster industry butt footage.
Yeah. The
Release
Russian,
the tapes.
yeah, the Russians who took my Twitter account. How about you find that instead?
Hello and welcome to the Sam Sanders Show from KCRW. I'm here with my first guest, Joel Kim Booster.
Hello.
It's an entertainment show about the culture and pop culture that we're obsessed with, the things we love to do in our free time, the movies, the books, the music, the internet, the memes, the fun things. And I'm so happy to have someone who brings so much fun into my screens and my world on a regular basis. Joel, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. And I'm so excited, like, just listening to you list off the things that we're going to be talking about today, because both of the interviews that we've done in the past have been so, like...
Very... Yes.
The experience,
So
our experience,
right.
our experience, you know, our experience.
Oh, you had churchy parents?
You know what I mean?
You
And
were
like,
hurt?
And this is how the trauma,
trauma.
you know, and so it'll be nice to just like
loosen up.
kiki, you know?
We're going to kiki.
Yeah.
We're going to kiki. Okay, with that, I have so much I want to ask you about. We'll probably revisit The View because we got more to say about that. But I want to talk about both of the shows that you've been in the last few months. Are we cool to start with Loot?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's start with Loot. I must say first, whoever's picking out y'all's wardrobe for Loot is doing work.
She's a genius. Kirsten Mann is she's a genius, especially with Maya. But for me, it's really interesting. Like, she does pull some like actual designer things, but she is really good at scouring the racks at Zara and finding the one thing that and making it look expensive somehow. Like it is. She's a miracle worker. She's like, some of the stuff I'm wearing is from like thrift stores and like it's a lot about the styling and things like that. And she just I trust her implicitly, and
y'all look good.
She's dressed me for a couple weddings too, but
she's let me
she's let me borrow a few things from the truck.
We love her. Yeah. Let's set up Loot. So I'm gonna start, but you help me out.
Okay.
Loot is all about the ex-wife of a mega billionaire who decides to use her cut of the money from the divorce for good. That billionaire's ex is played by Maya Rudolph. And then your character works for her. Yeah,
I am her trusty assistant / confidant / best friend, kind of but it's a work relationship too. So the dynamic is complicated and a little inappropriate in a lot of ways, but we have a special relationship.
Yeah. You know, this is the newest season out now. I was wondering this driving over here today, like, billionaires are in the news a lot. I want to say Vanity Fair or someone else has a reporter just dispatched to like cover Jeff Bezos. Like, that's their beat. I'm sure the same is the case for Elon Musk. But every month, if not quicker than that, there's a new headline about what billionaires are doing or wanting or changing. Does that inform the way y'all write the season from one to the next?
Well, I mean, I'm not a writer on the show, so I can't like speak to necessarily like fully the specifics, but I do know that they are paying attention to what is going on in the news. You know, they want this show to be connected to the real world, even as a lot of the comedy is outsized. But the underlying issues, I mean, the unhoused crisis in LA is like a huge, it is the backdrop of the entire show. And that's intentional. And I think they not only read the news, they've consulted with city council members and, you know, people who are working to figure out. I mean, I believe the whole plot of the second season of Space for Everyone, buying up hotels and turning them into housing for people who don't have that, is based on
real world plot.
Well, we asked a progressive LA city councilor, like, if you had $1 billion, how would you fix this problem? And she was like, honestly, this. And that is where the story came from.
That's cool.
And it's funny because, like, you know, you really talk to, you know, whether it be people who are NIMBY and YIMBY, I don't find to be especially helpful descriptors anymore. There's gradations, and the other side, it's just like when you ask like a NIMBY what a YIMBY is, you hear one answer, and then you ask a YIMBY what a NIMBY is, you hear another answer, and then it's somewhere in the middle. But like no matter what, the answer is that unfortunately there is no immediate fix, and it's so depressing because unless there is a radical change, like a billionaire coming in and doing that, or the government deciding to take money from billions of dollars from, say, the police budget, city governments doing that and making these radical changes, it won't happen because listen, like we can rezone and encourage new developments, but it's going to be so slow to get to the point where it's going to be helpful to the people who actually need housing. Yeah, and it's. When I went down the rabbit hole to try and figure out how I felt about which side of the housing, how to fix the housing crisis debate, I was more aligned with. I was so deeply depressed because I just asked questions to people who were experts on both sides. And the more you ask questions, and especially if you ask honest questions, not combative, performative questions, which is what Twitter is mostly about. You really just at the end of the day, it gets to yes, it's just going to take basically the difference is it's do you want this to take 20 years or 40 years?
Well, and the answer that gets us there quicker is usually an answer that's going to make both sides a bit unhappy.
Yes, exactly.
No one wants to accept that.
No, and there's problems with both approaches. And can I tell you?
Tell me.
We did it again, Sam. We were supposed to be talking about fun things, and we suddenly started talking about housing policy.
We're just dudes who care.
I can't believe it.
We're dudes who care. How would you describe your character on Loot in 5 words?
I would say he's loyal. He's abrasive. He is myopic. He is he is witty, and he is elitist.
How many of those words are actually Joel?
I think I'd like to say I'm witty. I'm very loyal, to a fault. And what else did I say?
Elitist.
I'm not elitist. No. The overlap is, I would say, much more limited than I think a lot of people assume, and that's a frustrating thing.
That's why I asked you that, because I feel like more than a lot of other actors I love and follow, people, for whatever reasons, number of reasons, think that the Joel they see on screen is always Joel.
Yeah, and it's this thing of, what's funny is that part of the reason I started doing stand-up is I looked at people like Mindy Kaling and Aziz Ansari on The Office and Parks and Rec, and I kind of looked, because I was how did they get these roles? Because I was auditioning. Famously, I've talked about this before, but it was all Chinese food delivery boys and nerds and scientists and things like that. And I was how did they get these funny roles that were so unique to and specific to them? And you go and you look into it, and it's because they built their own brand, and then somebody was I like that. I want to put that in my show. And so I was oh, and that is part of the big reason I started doing stand-up was I was I'll
define myself.
I will create a character that is interesting to me. Yeah. And then it will be then sort of airlifted into a television show, which is what happened kind of with Sunnyside, my very short-lived NBC sitcom. And it's sort of, and I got Loot specifically because one of the writers on Sunnyside is now the showrunner of Loot, Matt Hubbard. And so it is this thing of I've really painted myself into the corner of I've been doing stand-up for almost 14 years. Oh, wow. And there have been a lot of iterations of my stand-up persona, and unfortunately, not unless you're a deep fan, you're not paying that close attention to the adjustments that I'm making to meet the times or evolve. And so I think a lot of people look at the character on Loot and just assume that is who I really am, and it's frustrating, and it's also frustrating to have. Listen, I think the writers do an amazing job of writing that character because it is funny. But I do think that the writers too sometimes are writing to what they think my brand is.
Exactly.
And then so it's like this weird, like dysphoric experience of like playing a character that is like supposed to be based on a version of you,
but it's not you.
But it's not me, but I still am good at playing it, and like have fun playing it.
Yeah.
But I think people genuinely think that I am that person in a lot of ways. And I think the thing that I've learned over the course of being, I think since the first time I started looking at comments was 2016, my first Conan appearance. That was when I like the addiction started. And I don't look online very much anymore, partly because after 8 years of putting content out online that has been commented on, I am now fully aware of all 6 reasons why people hate me online. Now,
will you list them?
I mean, some of it, it's like I'm corny. I am my white partner. I am giving gay people a bad rap.
We already have a bad rap.
Yeah, I know.
We already have a bad rap.
And exactly, it's why they don't need my help. I think a lot of people think I'm confirming that. Some people think I'm too far to the left. Some people think I am too far to the center. Some people think I am cringe. And I'm sure there's probably a 7th that is currently developing right now, but I'm not going to get into it. And then this recent one that I've been seeing on some of my videos where people are like, he needs to fire his plastic surgeon. His plastic surgery looks crazy. Why is he doing that to his face? And I would like to say on the record to this camera, right here.
To the camera.
I have not even had Botox yet, okay? Like look at this, okay? Like this is happening. This is happening. So I don't know what about my face is giving plastic surgery. But that one is new. That one is new.
Okay.
But other than that, I know all 6 reasons why. And I can't remember why I started saying that, what we were talking about before, but I just don't. What I've learned is that so many people who dislike me because they have constructed an image of me based on bits and pieces of context that may or may not be things I've said, my stand-up or things I've said in interviews or tweets or Instagram posts or things like that. And like, it's not the totality of me, but they have cobbled together this version of me, and they hate that guy, and with so much, and it's just not me. And and a lesson I've had to learn really is that to really let go of the negative that you see online, you have to let go of the positive too, because quite frankly, like if you're gonna go online and look at all of because listen, I'm very lucky. Most of the comments on my shit are very positive, very supportive.
Yeah.
Great. But I am the person who's scrolling past 100 positive comments just to get to the negative one.
And
just
the negative
to see,
one is what you fixate
just to
on.
see which of the 6 buckets it falls into. But the thing is like you can't hold on to the positive comments, the supportive comments, because those people they've also constructed a version of me that is also not full, not really me. And so if you're going to give power to the positive comments online, you're going to end up giving power to the negative too. And so you have to remove yourself from letting the positive build you up in a way, which is kind of fucked up. But it's helped me a lot to let go of just both and like listen to the people that are in my life and who know me. Yeah. And
that's all you can do.
Yeah.
That's all you can do.
Because I've gotten in trouble online a few times, and it is very disorienting to be sort of have that one thing be the thing that you feel like people will forever know you as. And you just have these moments when you're around your family, in my case, like chosen family, my friends, my partner. And I just remember being like having several moments of just like holding onto my fiance and being like, you know me. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just like being like, okay, I'm in my house. You know me. That's it. That's all that matters.
Yes. Well, and just hearing you talk about the comments and the projections and the this and the that, I think this helped me a lot with all of it, is telling myself over and over and over again, people are mirrors.
Yeah.
What you see in them, what they see in you, it's often more about what's inside of them.
Yeah.
And what's inside of you than what's on the outside.
For sure.
And there's a lot of projection. There's a lot of displacement going on. And it's never all just you.
And I think with gay men especially, there is this like weird there's this very specific disease that I will describe now.
Mm.
I went to Good Room in New York, in Brooklyn.
What's that?
Good Room, it's a venue, and
Okay.
it's like usually it's house music. The nights that I go, it's like gay. It's like Carrie Nation, if you know who that is,
Okay.
plays there a lot, and great parties. Okay, it's a very queer mixed space, and I was there with a friend and a sort of D-list gay celebrity similar to me walked in, and my friend went, "Ugh, D-list gay celebrity is here." And this guy is like, he's nice. I've interacted with him. I've had plenty of very positive experiences with him. I don't know him well.
Also, here's the thing about every D-list celebrity: they are an hourly employee.
Yeah, exactly.
They are working.
Yeah. And I to my knowledge, he's fine. And has been welcoming and accepting to most people that I know. And so I was like, "What's your beef? Like, what did he do? Why do we hate him?"
Yeah.
And my friend stood there for, I swear to God, like 15 to 20 seconds and was like,
I don't actually know.
"I don't know why I said that."
Mm-hmm.
And then, not 30 minutes later, they are making out on the dance floor. And the disease is
We
this.
love gay men.
The disease
We
is,
love gay men.
The disease is this. It is, a lot of gay men have the disease of, I hate you until I know you want to fuck me. And then as soon as that is unlocked, it's like, oh, now
Stop
it
yelling at
changes.
me.
No,
Oh my
but it's,
God, this
and
is
listen, I feel that way too. Like,
hitting.
there are so many spaces, and
Wow.
especially, I mean, I wrote a full movie about feeling like a second-class citizen in a lot of gay spaces. Okay, I know that disease very well. Of like, somebody doesn't like greet me in the right way, suddenly I'm like, that person doesn't want to fuck me. I hate them because they don't want to fuck me. And it's like, it's so like toxic and weird, and you never know, but it's so based on assumptions that you are having about what that person is thinking about you.
Can I write you a check for $180? Because this was just therapy.
I could use it actually.
I also think a secondary version of that disease is hating people who seem to be happier than you.
Yeah,
just because they're happy.
It is
just because they're happy.
It truly, and especially online, I think the economy runs on being a hater. You know, like the tweets that...
How dare you be earnest and pure and joyful? How dare you?
The tweets that pop off and get engagement are the ones that are like, this show sucks because of this funny way of putting the way that this show sucks.
Yeah.
It's really hard to be funny and positive. It really is. Like, it's really hard to compliment something or someone in a funny way. It's really easy and more fun, honestly, to denigrate something in a funny way.
There you go.
And I know that. Trust me, check my feed. I literally just got it back. I was hacked. I've been off Twitter. I'm about to delete because after being hacked and being away from my Twitter for 4 days, I realized I didn't miss it.
You're free.
Nearly as much as I thought I would. For a couple reasons. A, it was like the first time in like, I don't even know how many months that I didn't have some like person with an anime avatar saying I look like I smell like AIDS or something like that. You know, like seeing a comment like that, like I don't need that on the daily to affect my already, shaky mental health.
Yeah.
And the other thing is I'm on so many group chats with so many
You're
terminally
all day
online
anyway.
gay men.
Come on.
That it's like they're sending me all the good tweets.
Yes.
I'm getting a curated Twitter feed on all of my group chats.
Bam.
And so I don't have to engage with the ones that are horrible.
Yeah. I have 2 mainstays and then a third for fun. How many group chats are you currently vibrant in?
I am pinned. I have 6 pinned.
I don't know. You could pin 6.
Yeah, I mean, you need separate group chats to talk shit about the people that are in the other group chats.
See, I can't keep up. You ever mess up and post in the wrong one?
No, I know that my friends have that. I am not a part of the side shit talking ones because they know I'm too earnest. I shit talk. Don't worry. I will shit talk. I'm not saying that, but like I am the girl in Mean Girls who's crying at the gym meet at the end because like recently like 2 of my friends like said something snarky or nasty to each other about Chapel Roan on the group chat.
Girl.
And I was going through it alone in Mexico, and I was like, guys, I need you all to remember that we love each other, and like this is not worth it. And like the way you talk to each other, it's like, are we even friends? And then they were all like, shut the fuck up, you earnest motherfucker. Like it's like not that serious. And so that's the person I am. on group chats. But yeah. So I don't need it and I don't miss it. And I certainly don't need to see
You don't.
discourse about
Yeah.
myself anymore. Because
Yeah.
again, it is a mirror, but it is a very distorted mirror because it is again
It's a
all of
house
those
of
different
mirrors.
versions of me
Exactly.
that
Yeah.
people have decided I am.
Yeah. Speaking of different versions of you, I was really interested in this tidbit about how this newest season was written. I know that in this season, your character's parents were introduced to the show. And as the writers were writing that into the script, they asked you, do you want to have Asian parents or do you want to have adoptive white parents?
Yeah.
You picked white adoptive parents, which
I
mirrors your
did.
life.
Yeah, I wanted to, and it was a real question because again, I am at times uncomfortable with the ways in which the show parallels my life and or my brand, you know, and well, up until that point, the show was paralleling my like on stage persona or the online
Big,
persona that I
bam,
have
boom, yeah.
constructed over the years. And this was a moment where it was like, oh, this is going to mirror my actual life now. And I chose to go with white parents in part because that episode had nothing to do with adoption.
Yeah.
And I feel this very deeply. You see adoption in the media a lot, but it's usually centered as like the story.
It is the thing.
It is the thing.
It's
It's the thing about that the story is about.
Exactly.
And I really appreciated that this episode was just the drama was not. It wasn't even mentioned that I was adopted in that because audiences are smart enough to figure
it out.
My parents walk in, they're white. People figure out how it happens.
Yeah.
Okay, like it's not Brandy's Cinderella. It wasn't magic. Like it just like people understand that this show takes place in the real world, and my experience is a common one. And I think that's really important to see incidental representation, right?
Say that again.
Because the
incidental
thing,
representation. I like
so
it.
much of what like we. Whether it be queer people or people of color or any marginalized group, whenever we get to be in the story, usually the story is centered around
identity. And that's the whole
our
thing
identity.
that drives the plot.
And again, listen, I wrote a whole movie that centered and was concerned a lot about identity. And it's funny, it almost feels retrograde 2 years later as I'm talking about it because, you know, I want to move forward. And like my next movie is very much like it does center a gay couple, but it has nothing to do with generally the gay experience. It just is incidentally they are a gay couple dealing with like a very specific problem.
And I think people will like get mad and be like, well, you pick one. Either your identity is the thing in the plot or you totally ignore it and they'll say one is good and one is bad.
Right.
And what you want as a creative of color is the opportunity to do both.
It's true.
I want to be able to do both.
It is true. And I received some fair criticism, I think, of Tori Miller's character in Fire Island because he is Bradley Gibson is featured briefly in the movie as well, but he is and Tomas Matos identifies as Afro-Latino, but Torian is like the black character in the movie, and he is a minor character in the movie, and people I think were rightfully upset that I didn't write more or give him more. I mean, there were things that were cut that gave him more of an arc. I did not write that part with any race in mind or any body type in mind or anything. Yeah. I knew Torian from Chicago. We did plays together. That's my friend. I wanted to cast my friend. And the thing is it becomes this thing where I was like, there has to be like supporting characters, and do you not want them to be? I didn't know what the answer was. I felt like I like in that situation in my mind I was thinking back and I was like, okay, if I didn't cast him in that part,
I'd be mad.
Then I didn't know what exactly the answer was because also like there were so many people who I'm not the person to tell that story. Like they were like the black gay experience wasn't explored enough in the movie, and I was like, do you want me to tell that story?
My answers to this, and I say it all the time. I'm actually happy that Lena Dunham made Girls about 4 white women.
Yeah,
because what the hell else could she have done?
No, exactly.
She cannot make Girls about the girls I knew growing up from around the way.
Yeah,
that's not her lane.
And listen,
and this idea that everything that has a an ensemble cast has to check every box. That's rarely how friendship works, and it's very hard to make that feel natural.
And yeah, and listen, I accept the note. And I would do things, I think, slightly differently. Unfortunately,
it was also your first movie.
The movie's locked, and I had tunnel vision about telling a very specific story about my experience as an Asian man in the gay community, and I wasn't really thinking that hard about anything else.
It's one
and
movie.
I should have been.
But
I should have
been. Should's a hard word, says my therapist. But also is one movie. This is also the thing. It's like we will consume art made by white men and either just like it or hate it. We consume art made by people from marginalized backgrounds, and it's immediately a list of questions.
Yeah.
Did it do this? Did it do that? Did it make this happy? Does it cover all the bases? I want a space in which creatives like you and me and whoever are given a benefit of the doubt similar to the ones that white creatives get, and the creative freedom and space to just try.
Yeah.
The thing about Fire Island, Joel, it's also your first movie.
Oh yeah.
It's your first movie.
Yeah.
You know?
And the thing is my entire brain space while I was making that movie was I might not get another shot at this. Bam. And so I was so nervous. I was so anxious the entire time making it, the entire time writing it. I to be quite candid and frank, I went off my medication during filming because I was convinced I wouldn't be able to access emotions as an actor if I was medicated, which is a lie, I will say, that your disease tells you, because I have since been
because your disease
pretty medicated.
Just wants to keep surviving.
I as most of the performances I've put in since have been medicated performances, and I think they're pretty good. But so there was a lot going on when I was making that movie that made me probably miss a lot of things that I probably could have done better, and served better and represented things better. But I did my best, and I always come back to this, which is that I did not set out to make a movie that was representing the entire community. I was representing.
That'd be a worse movie.
Yeah, no,
that'd be
truly.
A worse movie.
I wanted to tell a story based on real life experiences I had about a place I really love.
There you go.
And I think we've already talked enough about that on previous interviews, so we should move on. Yeah.
Taking a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Joel's work in another TV show that I'm loving right now, Industry.
All right, before we get back to my conversation with Joel Kim Booster, I want to let you know about my newsletter. In this newsletter, I will give you behind-the-scenes stuff from every interview, and I'll tell you what I'm reading and listening to and watching every week. Just go to kcrw.com/Sam Sanders.
We're back.
Hello.
How much of an Industry fan were you before you went on Industry?
Fan. I literally, like many people in the pandemic, was consuming media like it was truly, actually at the time, my job.
Yeah,
my job.
I thought Tiger King was the best show ever for a second. I mean, we were inside.
It was crazy. And I think, honestly, Lena Dunham directing the pilot episode, people forget. People forget. And I think that's honestly why I even heard about the show. And so I watched it. I mean, it's during that period of lockdown. I think it was a difficult watch because it's a dark show.
It's a dark show.
It's funny when the Succession comparisons that it gets, because they're both
Succession's
business.
a comedy.
Yeah,
Succession
a comedy.
Succession is a sitcom.
Succession is Veep. It is.
Yes.
There's
more jokes in Succession than in most comedies.
Yeah. But
Industry's not.
Loved Industry. Love Mahalia. Love all Marissa, I love all of them. I think they're and Harry, of course. My dear. He is so great and was so obviously when I worked on that show, I mostly worked with him and Ken Long. We had long car rides, and he is the wisest person I think I've ever worked with.
I love
he gave me such great life, career, and love advice. I truly I loved when when we got picked up and driven to wherever we were going.
I love it. So for those who don't know, Industry is a show about investment bankers behaving badly?
Yeah, don't ask me to explain what it's about.
I don't know half the things they're saying in the show.
I mean,
All the
I don't
financial
understand.
terms.
I
know
could
that
have been
stuff.
speaking Chinese on that show for all I know, because I
Do
don't
they
get.
know that people say this about the show?
Yes, they have to. They have to.
I watch.
They're both from that world, though. That's why it's so specific.
All of
They're both from that world.
The
They know
jargon's
it inside
hard.
out. But yeah, it was like learning another language and speaking it, and like having to I had to ask a lot of questions about like, so am I mad about what I'm saying now, or is this a good thing that's happening now?
Yeah.
But it's so funny that people want to talk to me about this show, because I am in 3 scenes.
But one of them is
I'm fully naked.
There you go.
Yeah, and that is
yes.
it's funny because a lot of media outlets like wanted to interview me about the industry, and a couple of them didn't bring that up, and I was like, babe,
bring it up.
I know that's why you want to talk
Bring
to me
it up.
about this. I'm a 1 episode arc, 3 scene character on this show, and the only notable thing about it is that I'm naked.
Yeah.
So we can talk about it.
Yeah. Just briefly. Well, I want to ask you a question that I feel like you haven't been asked about it yet. So
Okay.
It does feel fresh and interesting. But to catch folks up, your character appears in this episode to do or not do what? How do we set it up without a spoiler? They have to write
basically write an opinion that will either help or hurt the company that the main characters work with. Yeah.
And before the big conference panel to talk about this thing, and before your character's write-up of it, you end up in sauna with one of the principals.
With Harry Lottie, yeah.
And you are full frontal.
And I am full frontal.
Yeah.
Which, you know what's tragic about this is that the scene starts with me back. I drop the towel. My amazing ass is featured. And then I turn around and I sit down. But unfortunately, my lawyer really...
They cut the ass shot.
They forgot to put butt in the nudity rider, so they weren't allowed to use the butt.
Wait,
they were
we could've
allowed
got
to
butt.
use the dick, but they didn't carve out butt in my nudity rider, so they weren't allowed to use it. So the audience was robbed. But
So somewhere there's the lost Joel Kim Booster industry butt footage.
Yeah. The
Release
Russian,
the tapes.
yeah, the Russians who
tapes.
took my Twitter account. How about you find that instead?
I was thinking, watching Loot, watching Industry, and you in both of these shows, I had this like little light bulb moment. I was like, oh, both of these shows are very much about rich people and being rich.
Mm-hmm.
Being rich, getting rich, how to be rich, what you do once you have the money, whether or not the money corrupts you. Industry seems to be tearing down the rich. Loot seems to be humanizing some of the characters, maybe.
Yeah.
But I wonder, has being a part of both of these shows that deal so explicitly with how Americans see wealth, I'm wondering if it's changed the way that you think about wealth.
No, I
Okay.
don't think so in either way, because I think that my ideology about wealth in America was pretty well established before I got cast on Loot. And
what
in
is it?
fact, I had concerns about Loot
Really?
when I got cast. I had it when I met with Matt and Alan before I got cast on
Matt
Loot.
and Alan
who
Say
Alan Yang and Matt Hubbard, who created the show. One of my questions is I don't want to be on a show that's like fun, like
Billionaires are great.
Billionaires are great, and that's when they told me about how the season 1 ends, which is her saying explicitly billionaires shouldn't exist, which is something that I have believed for a long ass time, and yeah, so I think that it is sort of the issue of our time. It is the thing that will destroy our planet. Any issue goes back to that. I think national politics will continue to be a farce and theater until we get money out of politics. And I think like I think the labor movement, if you want to see change in America, I think the labor movement that we're seeing happening across America with strikes, etc., unions forming, like that is the thing that is going to change, because that is the thing that is going to that is the thing that is going to confront the five
systemic
guys who actually run our entire country, if not the world. So, and I might sound like a little tin hat like that, but that's how I really feel. Like, still vote by all means. Like, please continue to vote. But I just think that if we're not focusing on the people that are pulling the strings for the people that we're voting for, or putting forth the people, we're only getting the options of people to vote for because
that billionaires present us.
Yeah, exactly. And so until we sort of like chip away at that, it's never going to change.
Yeah. Do you think a show, or no, I guess if it changes the way people think about wealth in this country, how do you think loot and or industry do that?
I think that with loot, I think that there might be some kind of idea, hopefully, that like billionaires could do this at any time they wanted.
All of them.
And still have enough money left over to buy and sell.
Yeah.
Every single person who lives in Cincinnati, Ohio, 10 times over,
Yeah. Yeah.
And they don't.
They're not generous.
And the thing is they'll point to like the millions that they give to this charity or the millions they give to that charity.
But when you put it in the scheme, it's like 0.001%
It's like,
of their wealth.
yeah. You look at like actually we did the math on Shark Tank once. Ooh. It's really funny. My boyfriend, my fiance rather, and I love Shark Tank, obsessed with Shark Tank. It's the most Republican thing about us is that we watch I've seen every episode of Shark Tank.
Okay.
But sometimes like we go in and like they haggle with these people, these like young entrepreneurs over like, I'll give you 50 grand, I'll give you 100 grand for this. And they like, negotiate them down. My fiance did the math on one of the sharks and what they make versus what they just invested in. And it was the equivalent of me giving someone $13.
Whoa.
And it was like,
they have more to give.
Like when you put it in those terms, it's insane that like we don't expect more from these people, and it's just not going to happen because like we want too much, and in terms of industry, I think that hopefully it creates a certain amount of cynicism around the ways in which our like
the
money
finance system is wild.
Finance system is wild. I hope it like it makes it all seem sort of like it's all computers and magic and made up.
Well, okay, I will tell you what industry makes me think of when they get really into the finance of it all and the moving and shaking before the meeting, before the thing. You know how like when you were in like first grade and your friend wanted to play a game, but they had the ball so they could set the rules, and every 2 minutes a new rule.
Yeah.
That's
oh my
industry.
God.
Every 2 minutes a new rule.
Yeah.
You could do what? You could do that?
Yeah.
You could go there? It's wild.
It is crazy.
It's wild.
But yeah, I hope it's just like it's so not real. None of it's just so. I hope it creates a certain cynicism about that part of money making in America. But it's just the simple fact of it is, and I think people are waking up to this, is that there is no reason a CEO needs to make 333 times the amount of money as the lowest employee. And until we change that mindset, like, there will always be inequality in America.
Yeah. Okay. You write a show about the rich.
Okay.
What's the central premise?
Oh, wow. I think it would be about something. It's hard because Succession did it so well.
They really did.
That it's hard to come up with like what the other sort of side of that is. I guess I would talk about New Money a little bit.
Okay.
Like I would talk about my own experience. Like I grew up poor. We've talked about that, I think, on Fresh Air.
Yeah.
I didn't have a lot of money. I have not taken a dime of my parents' money since I was 17 years old. And I think that is the cornerstone of who I am as a person today. It's also a huge worry of mine with kids, which is like, how do I develop the same sense of like respect for service employees that I have in my children, because I was a service employee without, I have money now.
Yeah.
Like, and I know I talk a big game about my kids, like, oh, they're going to get jobs at 14. Like I had to get a job at 14.
But will they?
But when I look into their eyes, I know I will give them every single thing I didn't have. Like there will be no, like my brother and my sister and I had to pool our birthdays to get an N64. Like that, we had to agree that they would use the money for all of our birthdays just to get that.
Oh, wow.
And like, that won't happen in my house.
Nah.
But that was like really character building for me as a child, you know, like we learned to negotiate, like figure that out.
Collective action.
Exactly. Yes. We unionized to get an N64.
Yeah.
And so I just like, I'm scared about that, but I would write about that. And I have and it sounds obnoxious. Listen, this is a champagne problem. I know how it sounds. Please don't drag me. I have a lot of like weird survivor's guilt for
getting out of it,
for having money now.
Yep.
You know, like
yeah.
and it's why like I have focused so much of my time working in local LA politics to with groups like Sela, who, you know, I think every time I pop up on a game show, I'm playing for Sela here in LA, which is a really great grassroots on the ground, mostly focusing on the east side of LA, unhoused nonprofit.
Yeah.
And they do really incredible work that the city is just not doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so a big part of that is like because I have the time and the money to do that now, but it is crazy to just like sit in my like I just never thought I'd have the things that I have, and I feel really guilty. But I pay my taxes.
There you go.
I'm not hiding any of my money, and like
Good on you.
I also am very like it's so crazy to me like. You get out of an Uber, and the people who grew up with money are always the ones who are like, okay, everybody Venmo me $317. So that blah, you know,
they be the cheapest ones.
And it is so crazy. And like I am now like because I never imagined I'd have the money that I have now. It does not seem real to me, and so I am like, oh fuck, I'll pay for it.
Yes.
Like and this is I hesitate to say this. I got a share in Fire Island this year. It was 6 weeks. I used 2 of them, and I gave 4 of them away.
Good.
To like people who would not otherwise be able to afford to go to Fire Island. And it was mostly POC, trans, whatever, or otherwise low income queer people.
Yeah.
And I'm not like announcing this because I'm some kind of hero, but like it is the thing that like I try to balance out. Like it comes partially from guilt, but it is like it means nothing to me.
Yes, you can do this.
Like, like that's the crazy thing. I'm not even that rich. But like being able to spend that amount of money to give a group of people that experience truly did not matter. It meant
it probably
nothing.
is better for your emotional health than spending the money on yourself.
Like Jeff Bezos could literally solve so many problems, and it would mean nothing to him.
Nothing.
It would not. It just is so crazy to me.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I try. I think because of the guilt and the weirdness that I feel about having money and the new money of it all, and like suddenly now being around people who have money and like you know I got kicked off my Nextdoor. I'm banned from Nextdoor in my neighborhood because I moved it. Suddenly I'm in a neighborhood surrounded by rich people, and I was not a rich person for a long time. And the way I interact with them and the things that they are concerned about in our neighborhood are things that I just find kind of ridiculous.
I'll tell you the things they're concerned about. People of color walking around their neighborhood.
Say that.
That's what they're concerned about.
I think like if I were to write a show about wealth, it would be about someone in new money having to navigate the world of money and like how that changes you. And I'm sure it's changed me. Listen, it has definitely not been all me giving, scholarship money to trans kids to go to Fire Island. Like that is not it at all. Like I've learned a lot about how things that I used to do I used to think I was doing in moderation because of self-control. I realized it was about access. And now that I have not unlimited, but a lot more access, I'm like, oh, it wasn't self-control. It was just I was poor,
Exactly.
Like, so, yeah.
It's also when I watch these shows when I watch Loot and I watch Industry, I think a lot of our culture's obsession right now is watching shows about rich people behaving badly. We get off on that. We always have, like from the days of Dynasty and before, but we love it now. White Lotus is about this. Your shows are about this. We love it. And I think part of why we love to watch that kind of stuff is that we can make fun of the rich and say, well, I'd never do it like that if I got rich.
Right.
Don't be so sure, honey.
Yeah, no.
Don't be so sure. Once the money's there, you're spending it.
Yeah.
In many ways, like other rich people are going to spend their money.
Yeah. No.
It's like, I don't want these shows to make us think that we're above it.
It very quickly can give you a sense of entitlement that changes you. And like, and it's very dangerous sometimes for me because like, I think like, when I am going through listen, when you're medicated as a bipolar person, it lessens the episodes, the intensity of the episodes, it shortens the intensity of the episodes. It doesn't always get rid of the episodes. And having money while manic is like
dangerous.
Very dangerous. The number of times I've walked home and found 35 packages from Instagram brands that I did not need to buy. But it is like, and then that is the moment where I'm like, okay, I am hypomanic now because this is the clue. Because the thing about being bipolar too is that like, when you're depressed, when you're in a depressive episode. I rarely understand that I am manic until I either lose it or come home and see the packages, because it starts out so great.
This feels wonderful.
I am so productive. I am so charismatic.
I'm writing.
I'm at
writing.
my funniest.
Yes.
I like.
You talked about writing during the episodes.
Yes. Yeah, totally. And like, I feel creative. I feel alive. It's great. Like, it feels at times like I'm the best version of myself. And then like that, it's the worst version of myself. And it's really tough. And money makes that even worse in a lot of ways.
I get that. On that note, Joel Kim Booster, it is always a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for helping us kick off this show. I really appreciate you.
Thank you.
Come back whenever.
Definitely.